Okay, welcome back. Time for our second fireside chat of the day now. This is Optimising Supply Chain Strategies with Ashish Sood, Chief Supply Chain Officer at Landmark Group. Hi Ashish, how are you?
I'm doing well. Very happy to be on this discussion with you.
Lovely. Great for you to join us today. Thank you very much indeed. We've had plenty of interaction so far, so I'm sure that will continue. So where I want to start things with you are the key factors that contribute to the successful optimization of supply chain operations. For you, what are the main go-to key factors?
I didn't get the question. Are you asking what are the key factors for a supply chain optimization? Is that your question?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay. The supply chain optimization is a lot based on data, on people capabilities, and on tech capabilities. The intersection of the three actually becomes an input for the supply chain optimization. So from a data standpoint, we need to look at what are the sources of data that are available, what is clean, what is not. From a tech standpoint, we have to look at saying what are the tech capabilities that we have and where are the opportunities that exist. And third big part of it is having the right people capabilities who will ensure that all of this optimization is done. Also a related fact that's happening now with the COVID impact and all of that happened and the disruption that happened in supply chain, a lot of the tech optimization, the space between tech optimization and hyper automation is now coming very close to each other. So as you know, hyper automation is how do you automate the manual process or decision making, because what you see is when there is a challenge in the there is a disruption in the economy, something stops, generally people also get impacted. So as much as your decision making on the ground is automated, which is also optimized with the tech side, then both these aspects are well taken care of. So those are the three things that I can think of.
Do carry on.
The people, data and tech, that's the triangle for us.
From your experience, though, you're saying about the importance of data. How has that changed over the last few years in terms of the quality of that data and the improvements that it allows you to make?
See, earlier when there were no ERP systems that were existing, then getting to clean data was very tough. Now, the good part in most of the companies is that the ERP data is quite clean. At a transaction level, all the data is available. And you can download it, you can look at it, you can have multiple optimization engines sitting on top of the ERP data. Now, the new ERPs that are coming and the new transaction management systems that are coming, whether you look at a WMS or you look at a last mile delivery on the e-com side, whichever solution you look at it, the new ERPs and the new transaction management systems also have an optimization engine. But for companies which are working with their existing ERPs, which are a little dated, the good part is still that a lot of data is now available, which is quite clean at a transaction level. So your optimization engines can sit on top of that, even if they are not fully integrated.
One thing I want to expand on there is you're saying about all the different technology that's available, the new systems. For you, how do you make sure, from your experience, that you are getting the best from that technology? Because you can have the best, the newest, the shiniest new system, but if you do not know how to use it properly and get the best from it, you may as well still have your old one. You may still be doing it on a piece of paper and a spreadsheet. How do you make sure you get the best from your systems personally?
See, great point actually that you made. My personal belief is a solution or a tech, even if it is 80% correct, but it is implemented with 120% rigor, we will get 100% of the result for sure. At the same time, the tech may be 120% of what you need. And if you implement it in a shoddy way, you will not get to anything. You would actually derate your performance versus the manual way of working also. So what's very important is to understand first and have a very clear business case saying, what is it that this tech will do for us? What specific areas are we looking at tech to impact and improve? That's the first piece, which should be put down very clearly on a piece of paper, discussed within the team, very clear discussions happened, done across functions, because typically all this tech involves multiple functions within the organization, or could even involve the external partners. So very clearly saying this is the new way of working, this is where the tech will sit. That's first piece. The second piece is also building in the right people capabilities, because if your people capabilities are not great, then even a new shiny toy will only harm you rather than getting you the right results. So tech, a lot of good technologies are available, but the real challenge is actually around the people and the right alignments and the right discussions and the right thought process in terms of how the tech will help us. So those are the things that I feel are very important, apart from just getting a new shiny tech toy.
I do love how you phrase the importance of the implementation there, the 120 to 80 comparison. I absolutely love that, because the implementation is critical. As you say, you can have the new shiny toy, but if you don't use it right, that's an issue. From your experience, this is what I'd love to get some insight on. If any new strategy you've put into place and you're implementing, whether it's technology or so on, how do you go about step by step making sure your people, your tech teams are actually delivering that properly? What steps do you go through? How do you course correct if things aren't going as you'd wish?
So from a people standpoint, tech comes a little later for me. What comes very important is, see, all of these technologies, and in all organizations, you have a few people who are, let's say, the new world, young people, smarter than me, smarter than hopefully a lot of people. The new generation is just definitely smarter than all of us. So smart people, more tech oriented. And then there's a large part of the organization which is a little legacy. They carry a lot of information, knowledge, the right relationships, the right partnerships, and they have a lot of, because they've been in that role for a period of time, they have a lot of subject matter expertise and also the right relationships. And the important piece is, how do you get your people who are functionally very strong on the new tech, and how do you get them to buy into the new tech? That's very critical. Tech capabilities, and on the tech side, yes, we work with our digital function or the IT function. There are a lot of new people, and the people who can do a good tech implementation. That generally is a strong point for a lot of companies. And there are external partners also, the multiple companies, TCS, Infosys, and a lot of companies which do a good tech implementation for us. But the critical part from a people standpoint is, how do you onboard your existing organization onto the new tech? And the approach that I take typically there is, one is get at least one or two people into the organization who are the new world, who are very good with that specific technology. And it's the job of them, of that new one or two people that we hire, to actually do a few pilots. But in that pilot, get the people who are older in the organization, the functional experts, and make them also be part of it, so that they fully understand how the tech will get used. And once that knowledge transfer of how the new tech is going to get used comes to the people who have that functional knowledge, these people become champions. They accept it, they really evangelize it, and when they really run with it, the success rate is very high, because they have a very strong functional understanding. So that's the approach that I typically do, which is embed one or two very smart people of that technology into the core organization, get them to do pilots and new trials with the older people who have been in the organization for a period of time. The older people also learn, these people work together as a team. And once the larger organization understands how the tech is going to get used, then the adoption and the results are very strong.
That's an incredibly smart way of dealing with it, because as you say, you can bring the new people in, but they might not know what it's like at the coalface, the nuts and bolts of the reality of what it's like to work in that area. So yeah, that's a very smart approach. Time is starting to run away from us, so I do want to get on to some other things and get your insight on those. Risk management. For you, what strategies can be employed to try and mitigate some of the supply chain disruptions and build that resilience into supply chains and really optimize those strategies? What are your thoughts and approaches to that? See,
our approach to managing disruptions is, first, Normally what happens is the time when the disruption starts till the time that disruption really scales up and halts everything, that time is very critical, because that's the time you have to really utilize to prepare well for the disruption. And how do you get early signs upfront when a disruption is going to come up? So for that reason, having end-to-end visibility in the supply chain is very critical. And it has to be automated. It shouldn't need people to work out spreadsheets and Excel sheets to figure out what's happening. That input into people has to be the visibility, end-to-end visibility and automated reporting saves you a bunch of time. Even if it's a 1 week of time, that 1 week is very precious, because that's the time when the full disruption has not hit and you have time to take some actions to prepare for it. So the first piece in managing disruptions is having end-to-end visibility and automated data reporting. So the moment one small piece starts turning red, you are aware what's happening. So that's first piece. The second piece is, as I mentioned earlier, when disruptions happen, what tends to also happen is people get impacted. And hence, if, let's say, at a ground execution level, people are taking operational decisions, we have to look at and see how can those decisions be taken in an automated way. Let me give an example to explain that. Let's say I'm doing e-com deliveries. In e-com deliveries, which packages to put in which vehicle when the delivery person goes to the various houses of the customers. Now that has to be automated rather than it being manual. Now, like that, we have to look at each execution decision which is happening on the ground. Or let's say you are looking at how many people to deploy for various activities in the warehouse. All of those processes have to be completely automated so that when a disruption hits, your people can do higher order stuff rather than trying to run behind those core execution related aspects. And people also become a big precious commodity at that time. So that's the second part. The third part is, how do you have your relationships with partners that they, if a disruption hits, will take care of you and you are not a very transactional partner for them and then they can just walk off. So having long-term relationships, which is the old world in a way, is very critical in disruptions. Apart from the tech and the people aspects and people capabilities, is your partnerships. And if those partnerships are strong, and partnerships have to be much beyond transactional level, if those relationships and partnerships are strong, then they will stand with you very clearly. So those are the 3-4 things that we look at.
One thing I would like to look at, Ashish, is with an organisation as large as Landmark Group, I'd love to know some examples where your systems, you feel, have helped you through one of those difficult scenarios. When something unexpected has come up, how has your system reacted? What difference has it made? What did you learn from it? I'd love to know an example you have of that.
Sure. So we have one of the most automated distribution centers in the world. And when I say that, I work with a lot of very strong companies. Like I was with PepsiCo, I was with Amazon, I worked with G Capital. So a lot of strong multinational American companies. But I must say that the distribution center that we have is one of the most automated that I've seen. Now, when the disruption hit, because of the automation, our dependency on people was lesser. And if we were running a manual show, then managing those many number of people with the COVID impact would have been very hard. And because it's an automated system, all the transaction level decisions are taken by the system. So we could focus at that time on ensuring that we are keeping our people safe. So we ensured that people are not intermingling across functions. So we created, so to say, eco bubbles or whatever we call them, where they were living in one place, they were coming together, they were living together, they were working in one area. And that way we prevented people getting COVID infections and stuff like that. And also the automation really helped us because the people intensity of work was less and a lot of work was done by automation. So automation from an infrastructure standpoint, automation from a tech standpoint, having to manage lesser number of people. I think COVID was a big test for us, and I sense that we did really well. We were able to take care of our people, we were able to take care of our customers, and the business as well.
That's a fine example. As I say, time is starting to run away, so there's a couple more questions I did want to look at very quickly with you. You mentioned e-commerce a moment or so ago. From out of your experience within the supply chain field, how do you feel e-commerce is now changing and influencing supply chain strategies?
See, what I'm going to say, I'm sure you've seen or read in a lot of articles and books. But one of the big changes that has happened is now the consumer is, to the best of what we understand and to the best what I understand personally, the consumer is the same. Like we run about 2,000 plus retail stores in GCC. Then there's India and Southeast Asia. So large retail presence we have. We also have e-commerce channels. To us, the customer is the same. So if you give good experience on e-commerce, it has a positive impact on the retail store business. If you give a good experience on the retail stores, the consumer is comfortable in buying on e-commerce. And so to that extent, I think one big shift that's happened is the customer experience has to be great on both the channels. The second piece is how do you run a true omni-channel? And now new words are coming, unique commerce and stuff like that. But the conceptual, it's that how do you utilize your assets, your people, your inventory to give a unified experience to the consumer? So to that extent, having the right tech, in which you use your inventory interchangeably between a store, a retail store, and your e-commerce customer is very critical. The other piece is with e-commerce, a lot of changes have happened in supply chain from a tech standpoint because e-commerce is very, very supply chain intensive. Like if you were to, because you go and deliver to the end customer, so you also do that activity from a company standpoint of what normally a customer comes to the store. So e-commerce is very intensive from a supply chain standpoint. So your supply chain capabilities have definitely got to move to the next level for you to run a strong e-commerce operations.
And my final question relates to the whole ethos of this discussion, and that's about optimisation. And optimisation, by its very nature, can be a challenge for leadership because sometimes you have to admit you haven't been doing things as well as you could have done. From your personal perspective, through your career, how do you go about personally embracing optimization and being very honest with yourself and colleagues within the business to say we can do these things better? How do you personally approach that?
See, what's very critical is not feeling that you are the best and that you've reached the pinnacle of performance. That is never going to be the reality in any function, in any role. So first piece is acceptance that there are a lot of areas of opportunity. They are there today. They were there yesterday. They are there today. They will be there tomorrow also. The important point is how do you transcend this journey of moving from okay to good to great. So to that extent, the culture that we carry in Landmark is, are we perfect? No. Have we improved over the past? For sure, and our metrics are showing whether you look at customer experience, cost, digital capabilities, people capabilities, any metric you look at it. But I personally don't have a view that I am the smartest or we are the best. It's a journey of getting there, which was being run before we were there, which is being run when we are here, and which will be run in the future. So to that extent, in my discussions with our board, we are very transparent and we are very open to say that these are the opportunities for improvement. This is what we think we can do. And if there are thoughts coming from either the board or the other business leaders, my colleagues and all of that, we're happy to embrace it. So what we position is we are there to try and deliver the best that we can. If there are better ways of doing it, these are ways that we think we can do it. If there are better ways of doing it, we are happy. So there is no, baggage of saying that only my solution is the best solution. We will learn from the industry, we'll learn from our people, we'll learn from the business, we'll learn from our customers. In fact, we learn a lot from our customers. And being vocally self-critical is very important in your own professional journey, because if you're not willing to accept that there are opportunities for improvement, your improvement stops.
Absolutely. Ashish, that is wonderful advice and a wonderful place to finish this conversation. You've been incredibly candid. Really appreciate your expertise and insights, and thank you so much for joining us here at Procurement and Supply Chain Live Dubai. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you. It was a pleasure for me as well.
Thank you very much indeed.